Greetings everyone and welcome back to 365 Days of Prog. Today we're going to be reviewing the album Storia Du Un Minuto by the band PFM.
Hi, my name's Naomi. I'm an avid progressive rock fan, but I'm a long ways from knowing all the prog albums out there. But this year, I'm gonna give it a try. This is 365 Days of Prog.
Now before we get into anything about this video, I am kind of sick. I have like a sore throat, so I'm gonna, lay low in this video and I'm gonna talk about what is needed and not do much more than that. But with that out the way, I want to share with you some of my favorite bits off of this marvelous album, so enjoy. This album by PFM, I do not know how can this be a debut album. This album is so well made, it just in some way cannot be a debut. But I'm rushing myself, so let's go back a bit. This album is by PFM, also known as Premiata, Forneria, Marconi, or for us non-Italians, it's pasta, fettuccine, macaroni. No, but I'm just kidding. But they are probably the most influential and well-known Italian prog band out there. And I personally discovered PFM in the latter half of 2021, and I discovered them with their second album, Per Un Amico, which is the one that came after this one. And of course, I liked it very much, with Apera un po' being my favorite track of this album because I'm a basic prog head. Now today we are looking at PFM's first album called Storia Du Un Minuto, which basically means 1 minute stories, and it's their first album as PFM. Now the reason I'm saying that is because the band members, they've already been playing together before releasing this album, but under a different label, and they changed their name to PFM and made this album as their debut. So it does give some explanation to why everything is so grounded and actually well put together on this album. Now hear me out guys, because I'm gonna give an unpopular take I think on here, but I would say that this album is actually better than Per Un Amico, the second album of the band, which is usually the one most praised. As an experience as a whole, from start to finish, I find that this album, Storia Du Un Minuto, is a whole lot better. It's more enjoyable, it's more, prog and interesting and so elaborate, and I just completely loved listening to it more than I actually loved listening to their second album. And you can crucify me down in the comments, I feel like I'm gonna die, so you might as well just help me get there. I think one of the best aspects that this album has is what I would say a great musicianship. If I had to rate this album as breaking a record on this list, I'd have to say that this album breaks the record for best musicianship found on here. So firstly, this album features the iconic, integral PFM flute that I love in their other album. The guitar playing on a lot of the tracks, specifically on La Carrozza di Hans, is so good, like one of the best guitar, performances we've heard on this list so far. The drums are basically omnipresent, the bass is always groovy, always so interesting, and the keyboards, they just have a really unique sound. They have like those filters, and using the other Moogs and synthesizers and whatever, they sound so unusual but so fitting to the music found on here. It's really amazing. I love it when keyboardists do their best to actually try and match their timbre and sound to what's going on, and I think this album is a prime example of a keyboardist actually finding the right sound to fit within the other like ensemble of instruments, and that's so cool. Like honestly, the music on here just sends, shivers down my spine. It's really so good, so well put together, so well made, so well thought out. It's basically everything that's good about music. And when researching about this album, I read that this album did not go under the radar, and that's so good because it actually came, I think, to the top of the charts within the first week that it was released, and it was the first Italian rock album to ever do such a thing, and that's so good. And it's so unbelievable to think that these guys were basically unknown when they released this album, and the fact that they've just garnered so much popularity in so little time and they actually stayed prominent from there on is really so good, because they're an exclusive addition to the world of prog, and until today everybody basically cherishes them for what they've brought to the table. And the music on here is no less than incredible, and I'm now gonna talk a bit personally to all of you. If you've not given Italian prog a try yet because there's some barrier between you and the fact that it's from a different country, it's a foreign band, it's another language, and you don't kind of know if you're gonna get into that, I highly recommend that you do, because PFM are so amazing, they're so good, they're so somewhat accessible to those of you who like prog. So if you've not tried it yet, go ahead, listen to this album, listen to their second album, I don't care, just experience the amazingness that is Premiata, Forneria, Marconi, because they're so good. And honestly, although everything on this album is really good, if I had to go with one favorite track off this album, I'd have to go with Grazie Davvero. And yeah, I probably butchered that name, but that song is just completely amazing. It's basically textbook definition of marvelously good. So give PFM a listen. I cannot stress this enough. Just go and listen to them. If you haven't already, they're so good. And if you have listened to them, you're probably understanding why I'm saying all of this right now. Anyway, let's move on to the cover. So this cover is really good. I personally really like it. I love the colors found on it. Like, I think this is the best usage of color I've seen so far. I love the shade of red. Like, the house's shade of red is really lovely. I don't know why, I just really love it. And I really like the fact that it's all surrealistic, and in some way it really complements to itself. And I have no idea what this cover means or is supposed to represent, but I think it is a lovely cover. One flaw that I do find with it is the fact that it has the PFM initials on the ground, like laid down, and their color is like mismatched, and they don't really belong in this cover, but I do understand why they put them there, because it's still a debut album and you want to know who you're listening to. So I guess that's excusable, but overall, lovely cover. I think a lot of covers should take inspiration for what they did over here, of great usage of color and composition and symbolism and other stuff like that. And when it comes to the rating of this album, I'd give this one a 9 out of 10. Yes, I know, it's so good. It's really very good. The reason it's not receiving a 10 out of 10 is because it hasn't grown on me yet. I think I'd have to give it some time, but when I do give it, I'll find that this album is basically perfect. Maybe not, maybe it will stay a 9, who knows, but I enjoyed it so much that it at least deserves the honorable 9 out of 10. But that's about it, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for tomorrow, because we're going to be listening to the album Touch by Touch, and I think it's going to be my most special review so far for a lot of reasons, so just stay tuned for tomorrow's video because it's going to be something special. But until then, I hope you all have a great day, a wonderful week, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be more healthy and less sick, and if not, well, screw it. Bye guys.